Hello, I'm Jeremy Spencer with All on Georgia News with the Camden County affiliate here off of Harriet's Bluff Road. We're at the Harriet's Bluff Community Park here at the end of that road, and I'm here with candidate Mr. Ben Goff, and he is running for post 2, and he is actually going to have to be a write-in candidate. So, Mr. Goff, thanks for coming, and thanks for sitting down with me. I'd like to talk to you about your campaign. So, why are you running for post 2?
This is county commissioner, post 2, and I'm actually not going to run, Jeremy. I'm going to walk through the whole process. Running is a little tough for me these days. I want to see involvement in the county administration process brought back to the people. I want to see the people involved in the day-to-day activities of this administration. People have one vote in their administration of the county, and that's, in this particular instance, is for a county commissioner. Only one vote. I want to make certain that any votes that I have coming forward are a representation of what the people want to have happen. I've spent a lot of time talking to my neighbors and other people about the happenings in the county. I've gotten responses, I don't vote anymore because it doesn't make any difference. I want to see that change. I want to see pride back in our neighborhoods. I want to see active involvement by the citizens of District 2, and I want to be a representation of the people. I don't want to be a representation of the county. I want to be a representation of District 2. I feel that's the responsibility of a county commissioner in a district, and that's what I want to see happen. That's why I'm actually involved in this walk for a candidacy as a write-in candidate. Write-in candidate, best I can determine so far, has a tough road to hoe in the beginning, because I've been told this is the first true write-in candidacy in the county of Camden, Georgia. I've been referred to the state offices for answers that I have to questions about it. So at this point, I'm going on the basis that on November the 6th, you will need to write in C. Ben Goff. Now, I could only do it at one polling place, and I have done that. I have a large sign that reflects exactly that. And I hope that's one of the things that will help people as they turn into that polling place at least, to write in C. Ben Goff, District 2 Commissioner.
Okay. What are some top things that you would focus on if you were elected to the county commission? What are some things that you would highlight and steadfastly continue to uphold as if you're elected? Because you mentioned that you want to be representative of the people and not necessarily the administrative staff at the county office.
That's exactly right. One of the first things that I want to do, and I've already begun a little bit of that, may come to fruition, may not, but I want to establish a network of citizens that live in this district. I have a few people that want to get involved, and I've been asked, what involvement do you want? And my response is, I want to be able to call you and talk to you about issues that are coming up. I want to get the opinion of the people that live in this district about any issues that are coming up. And I will use that. I'll use social media, but main thing is to develop that network of people that I can talk to. I do not want to sit and take any vote on anything that I don't have a feel for the representation of the people that I've been sent to represent. That's probably the first thing that I want to try to get started. The second big focus that I personally believe that there's a need for a closer look at county administration. My intent, I spent 29 years working in an environment, in a corporate environment, where my sole primary job was process and production and procedures. I am pretty adept at that, although it's been a while since I've been in that environment. But I looked at efficiency and I looked at productivity. I worked with and supervised and managed large groups of people, with my primary focus being on how efficient are you, how much are we wasting, what are we wasting. I want to begin a close look at each organization, entity in the county administration. You know, they're listed right on the organizational chart, and there's a bunch of stuff there that I'm not sure that I even, at this point, know exactly what those folks are doing. I'd like to begin that process of looking at entities, speaking with the county administrator and the deputy county administrator and the individual organizations. I want to see exactly what they're doing. I don't want to be told what they're doing. I want to see it. And I will get involved. I have the time, most of the energy required to work as a full-time commissioner, and that's my intention. I'm going to look. I want to know what's happening. And that's the only way that I can think of that anyone can understand the workings of a particular part of this organization. I want to drill down and look at it. I want to be proactive in changing part of our philosophy in the county. You know, we tout ourselves as an award-winning government. I've kind of looked at some of those awards, and I'm not 100% sure that that's anything more than resume building. That may be a harsh term, but I'd rather see that award-winning government turn into an action-oriented government. I'd like to see action rather than plaques and platitudes. Let's see some action. Let's prove that you're able to do what you say you're going to do. We also, as a part of that, we say that we are a government that listens. I can't debate the fact that they listen or the administration listened. I don't like the term they. I can't say that they don't listen, but I can certainly say some of their responses are lacking, and that's a great part of listening. If I ask you for something or I ask you to do something, then other than just listening, there should be a response to that. I should see some action. I want to see some changes in the way things are done from a Ben Goff perspective. I've been personally involved this year in some of the administration functions, and I've been sorely disappointed. You know, we have two vehicles that we're supposed to be addressing in the county administration. One is the handbook for county operations by the ACCG organization, which I think is pretty in-depth and pretty interesting. We also have a Camden County Uniform or Unified Development Code that we as a county adopted in 2009. We adopted it. There are many things in there that we should be enforcing, should be addressing, that we're not. And I have real serious questions about some of that. There's a specific procedure for virtually anything that occurs in this county. All you have to do is follow that procedure. I'm kind of big on procedures and policies. If it's written and proven, and it has to have been proven because it came from the state initially. I believe that we need to adhere to those codes and utilize the information that's provided for the operation of the county through the Commissioner's Handbook and the other items that are related in ACCG. Firmly believe that. I am, for lack of a better description, I'm big on following the black and white and debating the gray areas. If it's in black and white, then we need to follow it. If there's a gray area such as removing trout streams out of some of the documents that we're given to follow, so be it. That's not a big issue with me. I realize that there are no brown trout down here in Camden County, and there are no trout streams. We got plenty of ditches, but no trout streams.
Okay, you highlighted some good points there. I'd like to ask you to expand on one of those points. You're saying that, and you did talk about the trout streams as a section in the code. But what specifically in the code is that, and there's probably a lot. Just name one that really needs to be addressed for your district that you're running for.
Probably the single biggest thing. There are several that I would like to see addressed, but there is a nuisance section in the code. And we have code enforcement personnel in the planning and development organization that need to know that nuisance section by heart. What that nuisance section really, in this particular instance, strives towards is rundown houses. Let me rephrase that. Not necessarily rundown, because some people can't maintain. But there are abandoned properties that nothing's being done about. There are abandoned vehicles on property. There are abandoned mobile homes out here on the bluff that nothing's being done about it. The nuisance section of the UDC is the thing that I would address with planning and development first. Somebody needs to get active in that particular section of the code. My personal heartburn, if you will, has to do with following the procedures as outlined in the code. There is a procedure for filing for text amendments, which I've been involved in. There's a procedure for filing appeals, which I've been involved in. And in both cases, those procedures have been virtually ignored by the administration. It's a fairly simple process as far as I'm concerned. All you need to do is follow the steps. I followed the steps when I presented those, and it never got followed from that point, and they're still outstanding. That's not my largest focus. My largest focus is going to be dealing with the infrastructure. Out here on the bluff, there were four areas that were defined by the Deputy County Commissioner, Deputy County Administrator, as being areas that were going to be addressed in the county regarding drainage and flooding. In one of our areas out here, only one of them was noted in that. Those are items that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed now. A lot of the emphasis was placed on the fact that we've had 40 inches of rain. We're going to have rain, but we need to maintain our infrastructure. We need to clean those ditches on a fairly regular basis. Somebody needs to look at them. If we had in the past, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now with them.
Okay. And you just kind of went over one of our topics. We'll go in a little bit further with that. Speaking of drainage concerns, the county has updated some places around the county. I can't remember the actual bridge, but they essentially rebuilt an entire new bridge so that people could evacuate. I forget the name of it now. And they're still looking to continue that maintenance. Why do you think that they tend to struggle? And it's not just the county. The St. Mary's is struggling with getting those drainage pieces corrected. The city of Kingston is struggling. They did have a contract that went a little bit dormant for a while, and that wasn't processed. They're still not working on that area off Crest Road. But it seems like the county has not run into some of those problems that I'm aware of. Now, you might know more. But why do you think that they're not ahead of the curve in some areas of the county and getting the drainage corrected?
I think it's pretty simple. We haven't had 40 inches of rain, and I'm as guilty as anyone else about certain things. If I don't have to spend the money today, I'll spend it someplace else, and I'll spend on this particular issue that's not a problem today. Dry weather, you don't have a problem with ditches. You never have a problem with ditches. You're able to mow them, do anything you want to. So, we didn't use that money last year. Let's just not put as much money in the budget this year. I think we have gone through that period where we have reduced manpower. We have reduced manpower in public works. We have reduced budget in public works. And the real kicker, as far as I'm concerned, we have not been able to put a person in charge of public works since 2004 that had a direct influence on what's happening. We have interim and interim and interim. Now, every person that's been in there as an interim, I think they're good people. I think we have some fine people in positions now, but I think we have a serious lack of direction for those people. You know, any organization, pretty much any organization that I can think of, needs strong leadership. If you look at the organizational chart for Camden County, at the very top of that organizational chart, you see the citizenship. Right below that, you've got 5 commissioners. Right below the citizens are the 5 commissioners. Right below that, to handle everything else, you have a county administrator, and now we have a deputy county administrator. And if you look at that organizational chart, they show them as equals on the organizational chart, and I understand that's a little bit misleading, but that's the way it is. And then we have the 12, 14 other departments underneath them on the organizational chart, which are totally separate from the other constitutional offices, sheriff's department, etc., to the courts and so forth. Where is the direction coming from for those departments? Who is making sure that those departments are doing their budgets, applying their budgets, applying their people, supervising their people, managing their people? They're all good people. I have absolutely no doubts they're good people. But you can take the finest ship and stick it out there in the Atlantic Ocean, and if you don't have someone steering it, there's no telling where you're going. And that's where we are today. I'm totally convinced that we have lost direction. I don't think we have any direction for anything except one item on your topic list.
Okay. All right, let's continue with our topics here. We are at Harriet's Bluff Park, which is a recreational park as part of the Public Service Authority, who manages our recreational facilities in Camden County, and they also manage some other facilities such as the Senior Center in Woodbine. So we're out here, and we're sitting in the pavilion area of the park, and then of course over to my left we've got the basketball courts and things. Let's just get to the real hot issue on this. This is the financial fallout of the PSA. The county, the 3 cities have had to fork up hundreds and thousands of dollars to the tune, at this point, to the tune of $700,000 and possibly more. The city of Kingsland has been told that they're probably going to have to come out a little bit more money than the rest because they have some type of service agreement with transportation and things of that nature and fixing the vehicles. The city of Kingston is using a different way to pay back the money or pay the money using a formula for the tax digest, whereas the county commission and the city of St. Mary's have used a population formula. Let me ask this question related to that. Do you think it's fair to use the population formula, or should we be using a tax digest formula to pay back, basically to bail out the PSA?
I would have to be able to look at both items, which I have not. What I have looked at is the fact that we have 5 elected officials that should be asking the citizens that. The 2 county commissioners have 2 of the 5 votes on anything that occurs there. I don't see how we can have a mixture of the 2. I think it's going to have to be equalized between the 4 entities, the county and the 3 cities. I think it has to be equalized. It may be population, it may be tax digest. I would tend to lean towards population, but I'm going to be truthful with you. I can't answer that question definitively without actually more information.
Okay.
You know, PSA, and I'm a little bit fuzzy about this. It's one of the questions I'm going to ask next week when I get to meet with the new PSA director, executive director. If you're supposed to be serving the citizens of the county, how do the citizens of the county get to speak to you? You know, it's set up as an entity that should be almost autonomous, at least not favoring one location over another. It should be autonomous to that extent. But how do I speak to, how do I get to the PSA what I would like for the citizens of this district to have in their particular parts? How do I do that? As far as I know right now, there's not a vehicle. And I may be totally misinformed. There may be a vehicle that I'm not aware of. When I went to the one PSA meeting that I've attended so far, I had the feeling that we really don't care if you're here or not. We have our agenda, and that's what we're going to deal with. And they did. So when they went into executive session to hire the new director, I packed up my water bottle and left. I will ask the question next week about that. But as far as how we determine who pays what amount of money, I can't really say at this point.
Okay, let's continue with the PSA issue. The PSA, they've had struggles with communicating with the public. Their website is not updated enough to show when their meetings are. There's nowhere on their website that says that. There also is no minutes that are posted to their website to let the public know what has been going on at their meetings. And there is no yearly budget posted to their website, which is often seen with the county government. It's often seen with the city of St. Mary's, and it's often seen with the city of Kingsland and the city of Woodbine. But the PSA authority has not done that. How would you change communication to the public if you're elected to post to on that issue?
I'm going to be posting weekly, at least to social media, and if I can get information posted in the newspaper regarding anything that happens within this district or within this county administration, it's going to be out there. I firmly believe that I should be communicating with the citizens of this district. I will definitely post in social media what's happening, what's going on, and why we stopped work out at Harriet's Bluff on the ditches, why it was stopped, and what we're doing to get it started again. That's going to happen on at least a weekly basis.
Okay. Kind of continuing with the PSA, there has been a few discussions with people that I've had that are thinking that the current structure of the PSA needs change. The local Republican Party has actually sent a request for the grand jury to look, in addition to what the GBI is doing. I'm not sure exactly where that is. I know the grand jury met this week on the 12th of September about a situation, but I'm not sure exactly what happened. I'm going to have to get what they're wanting to, what these people are saying, and it's just a few people, but it's people that have a lot of influence. What they're saying is that they would like to see a restructuring of the PSA board because the 2 county commissioners sit on the board and all the 3 mayors of each city sit on the board. And what they're saying is that they have so many meetings that they have to attend and be obligated to, that they feel that that may have contributed to a lack of oversight over many years. And that's a possibility. Would you be in favor of restructuring the PSA board? And if so, how would you structure it?
I'm not 100% sure I'm in favor of restructuring it. I totally accept the fact that, yeah, they attend a lot of meetings, they being those people sitting on the board now. Before I can say that, yes, they should be restructured, again, I would have to know a little bit more about why we didn't have an audit since 2004. You know, I can understand some things getting by, but that's one of those black and white things. No organization should go more than a year or so without a financial audit. How could it happen? You know, I've had people tell me that is, I'm gonna back off of that one. Need a financial audit. Okay, this is hindsight. It hasn't happened, so what do we do now? I'm a little bit concerned that we have a county employee working with the financials of the PSA. I'm convinced that there should be an outside entity working with the PSA on reestablishing accountability in the accounting system. You know, I have a major issue with the website for the PSA. I have a major issue with the fact that we're having to put out, and I forget the actual amount, maybe $50,000 to update the computer system at PSA. How do we get to that point? We can certainly blame it on the former director. That's easy. But there were 5 people sitting there, and if you accept a position, then you should be totally willing to fulfill the obligation of that position. I'm not sure how some selections are made, and I'm not going to get away from the PSA because that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a big portion of what I'm looking at Harriet's Bluff is the effects of the PSA not doing what should have been done. I don't know what happened to the money. We will find out at some point in time, and I don't know how much money is missing. I don't know how we could go into the IRS for over $1 million in payroll taxes. I don't understand how that can happen. I don't understand how we could ignore the 5 people that sit on that board. I don't see how they could ignore that since 2004. And I know we've changed horses on that board during that time. I just don't understand the logic behind not looking at the financials. My county commissioner, my current county commissioner, has been to this park. He has stood right here and told the director at the time, yep, I told him to stop putting screens in at Harriet's Bluff because they were just getting ripped out. I said, you know, that's a good idea not to spend the money. But what are you doing to prevent them from being ripped out? You know, what actions are you taking? Now, I know I've ventured away from, right at this point, I can't say that I see a need to change the board itself, maybe the people. I'm not sure it needs to be the mayor. I'm not sure, I'm pretty well convinced that it needs to be a representative from that entity. But I'm not sure it needs to be the mayor. I'm not sure it needs to be the county commissioners. In fact, I don't think the county commissioners should sit on that board. So if that's considered to be part of the reconfiguration, then I'm in favor of reconfiguration. I don't think they have any business sitting on that board. I think they have an obligation to look at where the money that's going to the PSA is being spent. I think they have an obligation for that, but they've certainly not, well, I say certainly not. It doesn't appear that they have lived up to that obligation. I get real adamant about mismanagement.
You've hit a lot of things. You've hit public works. You've hit the drainage. Let's go with another issue. I mean, you've already mentioned the spaceport, but do you support the spaceport? I mean, that's really the big question, because the county has sent out a poll based on a real estate group saying that around 59% of the people who were polled support the spaceport. And that was from a business group. But recent elections of certain people have said otherwise, and so that appears to be a more accurate depiction of what's happening in the county where spaceport is concerned. So, do you support it? Do you support the spaceport project?
From a personal standpoint, no, I do not. And my personal thoughts on it are one thing. I've spent a ton of time talking to different people in this particular area, which we're the closest. Harriet's Bluff is the closest entity to the proposed site of the spaceport. I have found one person that had a logical argument in favor of the spaceport, and that person said to me, look at all of the other locations for spaceports at night. Go to Google Earth and find pictures of them at night. I said, what are you getting at? She said, you'll notice it's total darkness. And it dawned on me, okay, there's no development around it. There are no lights. So her logic was that we're saving the environment. Well, that's a good point. I think the single biggest deterrent that I have regarding the spaceport is the fact that we're spending a ton of money that we don't have available. And from everything I've read, we're about to go into the slippery side of it, into debt for the spaceport. And I'm not sure how wisely we're spending that money that we have spent. I know that there is a disaster already out there. It's just waiting. The waste from the former plants out there, it's still sitting there. And I've attended one or two little meetings about the contamination out there. I also saw a person that formerly worked during the Thicol era out there point to the proposed location of the administration building out there, the architect's rendering of it. Oh yeah, I can tell you what's buried right there. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's way far away from the dump. That particular person, and this is secondhand information, seriously, but that particular person said there's stuff buried all over out there. And then I've had people out here that have been here for years and years say, yeah, there's contamination buried all over out here. Why do you think we have downy water, etc.? I don't want to see any further contamination out there. We have 1,800 acres of oysters out here. Nobody's mentioned oysters. That's a viable food source. That's a viable income for the fishing industry. I personally collected enough money to buy 5 copies of Salt Marshes by Charles Seagrove and presented them to the county clerk and asked her to distribute them to the 5 commissioners. I read that book and that had a serious impact on me about what we're doing out here to the environment around it. So I guess if I had to say bottom line what my objection to it is environmental. I liked the person's idea about there won't be any development out there, and that's true. I'm not sure there will ever be any development in that particular area. I've been told that the federal government didn't want anything to do with it because they cite whether that's true or not, I don't know. It's environmental with me more than anything else. If there's a launch out there, it's probably going to be after my time and I won't get to see it. I posted something, a thought that I had about the claims for tourism and economic growth and so forth. I truly believe that there will be more tourism on Jekyll Island, if there are launches, to watch from Jekyll Island than there will be from Harriet's Bluff. That's my belief.
Okay, and dovetailing in that is the Cumberland Island variance. The commissioners have knocked that around. They are trying to play a delicate balance with making sure that they preserve the ecological majesty, if you will, of the island versus the balancing with the property rights of the landowners that have had that property over many, many decades. And so where do you stand on that issue? Do you stand for the property rights issue, or do you stand for the environmental issue, keeping and preserving the island, or do you stand somewhere in between?
Maybe somewhere in between. I like to be in between. There's a book, Strong Women, Wild Horses. I recently read that about the island. And I also recently read in this that the current owners bought that property, paid $3.5 million for it, and it's now on the tax rolls for $169,000. I also read the articles about the planning and development meeting concerning that property. I understand that the people that bought that property for $3.5 million, I understand their point. I understand the owners that sold it to them, but they need to understand they sold them something that may or may not ever get to fruition with homes on there. I base most of my opinion on personal, but I also spent some time asking other people how they felt about Cumberland Island, and when I didn't get a single person that said stand for the property owners. It was stand for the National Park Service. So I would stand for the National Park Service based on that. That way I can escape my thoughts that it should be preserved for environmental purposes. I think we have Jekyll Island developed. I think we have the development that's out there is what it should stay at. Personal opinion.
Okay, and I'll end with this because time is getting away from us, but Camden County is looking to put in place a board of elections, and each county commissioner is, if I remember, I think we still got one county commissioner that's still trying to figure out who he wants to appoint. But the other four have appointed their appointee to possibly sit as a conditional appointment to sit on the board of elections. Currently, the board of we just have a board of registrars, and the actions and duties of our elections here in Camden County is somewhat fragmented. And so the goal is to kind of consolidate this into a board of elections and have each county elected member appoint a person that is representative of their district to sit on the elections board. What is your opinion of the elections board? Is it the right thing to do to consolidate? And if it is, tell us why. If it isn't, tell us why. And would you and do you support the appointed process?
On this particular issue, I'm convinced it's not broken, so let's don't fix it. The appointed process, I have a problem with, and not necessarily with the appointees that we're talking about right now on the elections board. I think that we're leaving too much of the business to appointed people, and cut right to the chase. I'm talking about planning and development. Because I've had personal experience with planning and development. And I can only speak to the representative for my district. I have requested, talked with, and not gotten a response from that appointed person. I don't know why that person was appointed. Probably a great person. The appointed process, the county commissioner has to appoint someone to that planning and development. And the person that's there may be the most qualified person in the county. I don't know. I can't really say that. But I do know that I can't get a response from that person. And that person is put there, probably not paid anything, probably takes up their time to serve the county. But I'm convinced they, just as the county commissioner, because basically planning and development is an executive committee set up by the county commissioners. That's what it is. They don't have any authority over and above the county commissioners. And I'm convinced that they need to follow the procedures that are in the UDC. And I don't see that happening. I don't see them as being informed. The article I read about the Camden Cumberland Island variance, the meeting that was held down there, where the term was used, there was very little discussion among the members of the board. I'm convinced they weren't informed. I don't think we have a vehicle for determining what really should be decided in those meetings. Most of the decisions, I agree, are mundane. That is not, that particular Cumberland Island variance is not a mundane issue. There's some real serious thought that needs to be given to it as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap up our session today, and I want to thank you for allowing me to come out here and interviewing you and let the viewers decide about your campaign, and looking forward to seeing what the other candidates will say. But I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I thank you for coming out here.
Thank you.